This is episode number 38 of the Homeowners Show. Whether you're DIY or looking to hire, we're here to help you find the best information and options for you and your home. My name is Kevin Hackett, and here with me is Greg Williams.
Hello, and welcome to the Homeowners Show. We are so excited that you guys could be with us today because we have a great episode for all of you homeowners, aspiring homeowners, dream homeowners, whatever, whoever you are. We got an episode for you.
Ex-homeowners.
You've been kicked out. We can get you back in.
We'll fix you up.
How you doing, Kev?
Man, I'm doing good.
Yeah?
Yep. I'm excited. I know this is going to come out a little bit later, but this weekend's Memorial Day.
Yeah.
And we're going to go on a little vacation. So
A little vacay?
yeah, pretty excited about that. Glad to have a little bit of a heads up from the Unlocking the Magic people on how to leave my home so I can go on vacation. That way I don't screw it up.
It's all squared away.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Well, listen, guys, if you have not yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button there on iTunes, Stitcher, Google, whatever else you're using. So
That's like the hardest part for the entire show for you is remembering.
I can't remember all the platforms. If wherever you find podcasts,
There you go.
we'll be there.
There you go.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and as always at homeownershow.com.
Yeah. And YouTube.
And YouTube.
But you got to be careful.
When Kevin gets his act together.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's been a busy day.
Yeah?
So I actually, I gave you kind of a side shout out on another podcast this morning.
Really?
Yeah.
So you were on a podcast.
I was on another podcast. I was cheating on this podcast and went on another one.
How dare you?
Yeah, it was weird, man, because I was being interviewed and I kept wanting to ask them questions. I thought they were being rude.
Yeah, you're sitting on the other side of the table.
So no, it was fun, but they were asking me where our podcast is available. And I told them, the ones that I knew of, and then I specifically wasn't going to mention the one that you use.
Oh,
Mostly out of spite.
but you did.
I didn't.
Oh,
No, I mentioned you by name and that you used a terrible platform, but I wasn't going to mention it.
okay.
So,
All right.
but dude, we had the craziest thing happen this week in our business, and which, by the way, I mean, like, I know everyone out there listening, we don't talk about my business a whole lot because that's not what this podcast is about. But you've probably heard it mentioned several times that we do pest control, and that's that. So if you want to hear more about that, you can actually go over to the Shrimp Tank podcast and hear all about my business over there. But this week in my business, we got a call from an English gentleman with having an issue with marsupials in his pantry.
Ouch.
Yeah. But the interesting thing was the whole reason he called us is one of my guys went over there to take care of it, and he was kind of looking around the house, and he came back to the office and he goes, "Do you know that dude was a knight?" And we're like, "What?
A knight?"
And so we actually talked to him on the phone, and we're like, "Sir so-and-so, it's really nice to meet you." And he goes, "Yeah, the whole reason I called you guys is because your name's Excalibur."
Oh my goodness. Was he Lancelot?
I don't know.
That's amazing.
I know.
Did he have a round table?
So,
I'm so intrigued right now.
We have a very specific market.
Does he know the Lady of the Lake? What?
to
What all? Okay.
expatriate knights living in the United States. So
Wow.
yeah. So
Okay.
that was the whole reason. Sorry. That was the whole reason he even liked our business, was because it was like, hey, that's the sword right there.
Boom. That's
So,
all it takes.
It worked for somebody.
Hey, marketing is always going to hit somebody. The goal is to hit everybody, right?
Right.
But at least you hit somebody.
Right. So anyway, we have a really cool episode for you guys this week. We have my new friend Shawn in here to talk about his new business opening here in our community. Shawn, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
Man,
Thanks
it's
for
really
having me
good to
on.
have you in the studio.
Thank you.
Yeah. So why don't you just to kick it off? You've got a new business opening here in our city, and this isn't your first one. This isn't your first rodeo.
First time at Conroe.
First time in Conroe. So give folks a little bit of background. Let them know where you're coming from and how you got here.
Yeah, so we're it's a little unique. My wife and I, Marissa, she and I took an old Conroe single family estate home, and we converted it to a licensed assisted living and memory care facility. And so yeah, we're in the senior living business. We're not just owners, we're operators. We're hands-on with our residents, and yeah, we're excited to bring this to Conroe.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, so you bought a house. I mean, this isn't like a medical facility.
No, in fact, it's incredibly important that we don't feel like a facility.
Okay.
So, going into this, it was really important that, a couple of things. We wanted it to feel like home.
Yeah.
And, we wanted to put together an assisted living facility in a residential atmosphere that, the type of place I would want to put my parents.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how the idea came into place. We got into this through our own experiences, looking for a place for, a family member. And yeah, it's been quite the ride.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man.
Cool.
And I mean, like you were showing me a picture of this place. I mean, it's not a tiny house. I mean, like
no, it was already a big house to begin with. It's very unique, but it's in the heart of Conroe. It's on One Briarwood Drive.
Okay.
And but it's a quiet little street, and of course the home was completely outdated. It was built in the 60s, blue carpet, but it was, it's large and it's beautiful. It's on a beautiful property. And, the rule in real estate, don't fall in love with the house. We did, and we paid for that. But there was just something about it that, it was very unique, very special. And we said, we got to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're transitioning this property into assisted living and memory care, and I do want to kind of circle back at one point to kind of talk about what's the difference between that. But what has been some of the biggest challenges in creating that environment? Because I imagine that's difficult to kind of have your feet in both those pools, to have it be an assisted living care, but also make it feel like home, and having to like redo the whole house.
Yeah, so it's not easy to take an old house and just convert it.
Right.
We took the entire home down to the studs.
Oh wow!
And that was a big job. And the city of Conroe is I think they've had a bad taste in their mouths for unlicensed care homes in the community. So it took an open mind when we approached them and said, hey, we found this home. There were some really strict building codes that we had to follow, and we did. Ultimately, we put in a fire lane, and we've got striped parking places, and so there's a lot of commercial construction aspects that went on with the project. But in regards to the home itself, we didn't change much of the floor plan. We didn't change the footprint of the home. So
right.
you're driving past it. It looks like, mom or dad's house. Yeah.
So, it'll kind of have that feel when, people come to visit. Or
absolutely.
People,
Yeah, exactly. Big circle drive in the front, beautiful lawn. The grass is finally starting to grow after, we got some new sod in, got our landscaping and so we're really excited to get it open. It's next month will be 2 years since we, of course we had Hurricane Harvey,
that's right.
Yeah, that hit, not too long after we got started on it, and the house, sat empty, and it was a good time though. It's a learning process, but as I said, we're excited to get it open and bring it to the residents of Montgomery County and Conroe. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's better to have it go through a hurricane without any residents in it to kind of see how the property responds.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've got plenty of stuff to talk about renovating a home.
Yeah, we could do a whole nother podcast on that episode. Yeah,
deal.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Well, cool. Well, tell us. I don't know much about the assisted living community, those sorts of things. So, you were telling us a little bit just a minute ago that you were looking for a place in your own family. And what drove you to do something like this? Because I assume that if you found the place you were looking for, that you would go, okay, well, someone else is doing that really well, and just let them do it. So there's something different about what your approach is, other than just, a residential style, like a home style feel. Now that could be part of it, but I get the sense that there may be more to it.
There is more to it. And I think that our approach with seasons, just as an operator, is it's different. We're about fewer residents, more caregivers.
Okay.
If you go into what I refer to as a big box facility, which they're being built all the time, with these big campuses and the facilities, the grounds are really pretty, and these huge chandeliers, but it's as soon as you walk in the door, a lot of times you can smell the neglect immediately once you get inside. And, mom or dad, or, your loved one don't always thrive in that type of environment. Being on the third floor of, in an apartment somewhere, not a lot of caregivers, but the ratio. So there's so many people that there's not enough caregivers to cover all the residents in these bigger, larger facilities. So
Right.
we're about doing it in a smaller environment. We're held to the same licensing standards as, these big facilities, but we want to be different by design, and the fact that we're doing it, we're staffed 24 hours a day. And, we're awake at night, but we get to know our residents on a little bit more personal, intimate basis. We get to know their preferences and what their needs are, and be a little bit more hands-on.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, just from a standpoint of trying to understand that business a little bit, that seems like that should be paramount wherever you're going. But I think we all, however much you know about this, we all know that this is an age of people that if you neglect them, there's not a whole lot they can do about it.
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, senior abuse and neglect, it's a real thing.
Sure.
And it is, can be prominent in facilities, especially larger ones where maybe there's not a lot of accountability. Mm-hmm. And so our whole approach to senior living is, great food, great care, and excellent communication, and a lot of accountability. So we want to, and it's when you get into senior living and senior care, it's a team approach, and our staff, we're in the mix with the family, constantly. We're in the mix with the residents, physicians, or, maybe they're on home health or hospice. So we're working with them, and it takes a lot of, good communication skills to be able to do so.
Yeah. Well, and a couple of things that you mentioned about other facilities, like, and I've been to some of these, and you're absolutely right. When you walk in, you can kind of smell the neglect and see, just how they operate. What is it that you think makes people make that decision and go that route? I mean, is it purely like a call? I mean, people are just crunching the numbers. Is that what's going on here?
Some of it is cost.
Uh-huh.
That could be driving it, because, in depending on the facility, it could be a facility that accepts, Medicaid, Medicare. And so that could be the only budget that
they're operating with.
Yeah, exactly. That they have to work with. So I think cost drives, a lot of those decisions. Oftentimes too, though, the family, the kids, or, whoever's related to them, or, putting their loved one, sometimes they're making a decision based on where they live. I want mom or dad to be close to my house, but not in my house. So I'm going to choose, XYZ facility right down the road. Well, that may not, be the best option for mom or dad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the things. I mean, my wife's grandmother wound up, needing to go into a facility herself, and there's a lot that goes into those facilities, and you wonder where any of that actually goes. Like, for example, I mean, and this is just part of that. I understand, but like, the place that we wound up having to put her, seized all of her assets basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so, here, this was a very generous lady. So at Christmas, everybody in our family got money, and that no longer was an option because they had every single penny that she owned and all of these things. And so it's like all of a sudden, there's a lot of really stressful things that happen in all of this. And I think that one of the things I like about what you're saying here is that sometimes you're pouring all of this money into a facility, and whenever you leave, you're just hoping that they get the care that they need, and that you're spending money in a place that is actually not just down the road, but a place that is taking care of your loved one.
That's huge. It's you want to make sure, I mean, that obviously it's ticking a lot of boxes, that it makes sense.
Sure.
To me, it's, and again, we're about being the best in the marketplace. We feel like, I mean, to be transparent about it, I mean, we feel like we can do senior living better than anybody in town, but it's because it starts from the top down. We're not, while we're a private pay facility and we don't do Medicaid or Medicare, we want the best managers and the best staff, and everyone's, highly screened, highly trained, and they're very hands-on with our residents, and they're not just there for a paycheck. So we're about, really pouring back into our staff and to their education. And, I look at it like this, your loved one or, grandma, grandpa, I mean, they've spent their lives, serving others. And now this is kind of our opportunity. And that's kind of what we felt like this was our calling. It's our opportunity to serve. And that was important to Marissa and I when going into this. I mean, it was key.
So let me ask you this question, because I know that I've got another friend who actually has a degree in this type of care, and I know that there are people that are literally educated. You mentioned that just a moment, literally educated to care for people that are in assisted living homes, and so there's a lot that really goes into that. But as someone who eventually will get to this point in life where parents need a place to go, whether it's living with me or living somewhere else, what are some things that I should be looking for that would help me make a good decision toward that end?
When you're like looking at other facilities?
Just in general, like it gets to the point where it's apparent that my loved one can no longer take care of themselves, or maybe the doctors are saying they can no longer take care of themselves, whether you realize it or not. And I have to get into the position where it's time to make that decision. What types of things should I be looking for in a facility?
Well, so to kind of break it down, I mean, it depends. The type of facility depends on the needs of the resident. So in the senior living space, you've got independent living, which is kind of like the Golden Girls model. They may still drive,
right?
And you see a lot of these popping up, these 55 and older, communities, and
it's 55 only and old.
Exactly, and they may have like a duplex, and they're driving and they're moving around a little bit. Then you move on to assisted living, which there's, that's where they need help with the activities of daily living, and the showering, the eating, the dressing, grooming, incontinence care. I mean, all the activities to live, essentially. And then ultimately, sometimes if their needs increase, they have to go to like a skilled nursing setting. But now, they can, depending on the type of license that you have as an assisted living facility, a lot of times now, the nurses can come to you via home health or hospice as needs increase, without the resident having to, leave and go to a skilled nursing. But so just to kind of set the stage. So there's different levels, I guess, of senior living and what that looks like. As far as what to look for, I think the first thing is just what's the vibe?
Yeah. What does it feel like?
What does it feel like?
Yeah.
Does it feel clinical? Are these long, hallways? Are there people that are just, obviously in, senior living, you're going to have people that wander, and we'll talk more about, memory care here in a little bit, but, what's the vibe? Does it, does it feel clinical? Does it feel like a facility? What is the staff? How good is their communication? What are the smells? What does it smell like in there? So that's a good place to start. And then, who's running the show? What does the manager look like? Are they good at their jobs?
Are they available?
Being available. Yeah. But, good questions to ask are, what's your staffing ratios? Okay. How many caregivers to residents do you have on a normal day?
Sure.
What does it look like? What's your staffing pattern? What does it look like at nighttime?
Yeah.
Are they staying awake at night? Are they going and, getting in the lazy boy chair and reclining back? But these are questions that you need to ask, right? And so those are good places to start.
Okay, great. Does proximity to like medical care and emergency services, I imagine those are pretty,
yeah. So yeah, they're important,
right?
We could have done seasons in Conroe. We could have done it out in the country somewhere. We could have done it out in the,
right.
We chose to be in the heart of the city, and we are close to other churches and medical facilities. But that was kind of the point, though, too. Right. Is we want to be close to your house, your office, your church. So if you guys want to swing by mom or dad's house and grab mom or dad on Sunday morning to go to church or go to lunch, and it's convenient. So that was intentional.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
Man. Well, so let's kind of get into the assisted living memory care thing. So you were kind of describing a little bit there, like what assisted living looks like. So is memory care something that you add on to that, or is that like a whole separate thing?
Yeah, so it's an add-on.
Okay.
But it's so in assisted living, you've got we're going to be licensed a Type B facility, meaning that the residents would need assistance if they had to evacuate. I remember Type A, the Golden Girls, they,
right.
The state regulations state that they can get out without, any assistance. The Type B, because we'll have residences that are, several of them could potentially be non-ambulatory, in a wheelchair. And so they need assistance. Well, when you get into Alzheimer's and dementia, there is another component to that, which is memory care, specifically to be licensed, to have a license for Alzheimer's.
Okay.
And what's involved in that? More training for your staff. It's they've got to understand the disease better. The facility itself has to be set up, but every door, even though again it looks like home, it feels like home. The entire home, every door has a keypad, has a magnetic lock. Mm-hmm. So we've got access control. So for those loved ones that are wondering, or they can even go out into the backyard, but the entire premise is secure. We have cameras everywhere, which is good. Again, we talked about accountability.
Yeah.
Very important to me. I can see everything that's going on. Our staff can be in the kitchen area and look on a monitor and see down every hallway. But yeah, when you get into memory care, there's with dementia and different stages of that, and Alzheimer's. It's tricky, and it's one of the ugliest diseases that I've seen. And being in the business for a while, it tears families apart. And but there's you've got to have some real technique and skill to work around people that have dementia. and or Alzheimer's, and they and some of that is aggressive behavior, or they just there's a lot of confusion. So we customize their care more, and we have to build activities around them. So it's not, it's not general activities for the entire home or facility. It's much more customized, and we have to have an activities director on staff. So we do music and games, and we're creating activities that will help the residents help with their memory and help kind of navigate some of that.
Well, and I think a lot of us use those two diagnoses, in regular conversation, but like someone like me, like I have no idea what the difference is between the two. For an idiot like me, what is the difference between those two?
Alzheimer's and dementia.
Yes.
Okay, so Alzheimer's is actually, and again, and I'm not a clinician, I'm not a physician, right? But no, Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. And dementia is a stage. The earliest form of it is just memory loss. But when you get into later stages, there's, I guess, different strains of it, different levels that the physicians will.
And when you say memory loss, we're not talking about like I lost my keys. Yeah, no,
it's like you come to visit mom and mom has no idea who you are.
Right.
That's tough.
Right. Yeah.
It's tough. And I have seen it time and again with our residents and their families. And, part of doing this, again, I mean, we're helping residents, but we're also helping families. And I think that's what's been so rewarding for me in this industry is just, we're serving the residents by being awesome at what we do, but we're also, when the call comes in from the son or the daughter and they need help, they can't be the caregiver anymore, and there's a lot that comes along with that. But it's awesome because we get to serve families too.
Yeah, that sounds amazing because I think that's one of the things that that I love about what you're telling me is that it's not just about the person that you're taking care of. I mean, you recognize this is a family, and there's a reason that this person is in your facility, and I, as the person who put them there, may not understand that much. And so you being able to convey back to me what's going on and why, and oh, by the way, I mean, you're kind of a counselor on some level, so going, everything's going to be okay. Like, this is normal, those types of things.
And it's not, when you make the decision to, move mom or dad somewhere, other than their own home, that can be a tough thing on anybody. And so, we are playing counselor a lot, to family members and helping them navigate that. But once they're there and, of course the resident has settled in and the family's coming by, which, we love, people coming by. We love activity. We love, volunteers, which, by the way, help us get the word out on that. I mean, we want youth groups and choirs and people that love, seniors. I mean, that's important. And so, it's very cool to help out, the families as well.
Cool. Absolutely. And something you mentioned a while back, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to ask you. I'm not well versed in like Medicare and Medicaid. You mentioned that a while back, that's something that you guys don't do. Is that like a conscious decision that you made in your business, or is that just, I don't understand how that even works.
Yeah, it was a conscious decision, but I mean, anytime you get involved where you're waiting on payment from the government,
right?
Okay, that's tough, right?
Yeah,
and it's hard to run a business, and the reimbursement rates, that the government gives you, unfortunately the level of care. I mean, you don't get that nice of a facility for what, I mean, but if that's all you got, that's all you have. And it is what it is. But yes, to answer your question, I mean, that was a decision, because then you've got to have someone on staff that's just dedicated to just, the paperwork that's involved with that. It wasn't a path that we wanted to go down.
Yeah. And I mean, not to get like political about it or anything, but this is actually something I hear quite a bit from physicians and people like you who operate the kinds of businesses that you do, that they've decided to opt out of those, types of programs because they feel like it doesn't allow them to give their patients, their clients, the kind of care that they want to be able to deliver.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, because, if you're getting, I don't know, $50, $60 a day or whatever, I don't even know I don't even know what the reimbursement rates are.
Right.
But it's hard to, it's hard to be awesome and have the resources to be awesome if, you don't have much to work with, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So here's a real important question that I think some of our listeners may want to know. That is, how do I start planning for this? Because if I'm not going to rely on, Medicare, Medicaid, then, resources I know my parents have.
Sure.
I don't even necessarily know what my parents have. I don't know if they've got money, if they don't. I mean, they act like they've got some money, or they don't act like they've got some money. So I don't really know. So how can I find out information about how much this is going to cost? How can I plan for the future, and make sure that whenever I get to that, I'm not winding up, driving a Ford Pinto over here trying to, downsize to a little shack so that I can pay for mom and dad to go into a decent facility.
Yeah. You don't know what your folks have?
No.
I keep a ledger, bro.
Do you?
You know what my folks make?
No, I don't know I know what my folks.
Well, no, it's funny though, because before I got in the business, I really didn't know either. And once we, got into this, I was calling up my parents going, you need to create a special place, a thumb drive, or, something where I just know what the deal is, and part of that is just having a good conversation, right?
Yeah.
And having dialogue, and finding out. But to answer, and I think you rolled about 4 questions.
I know I did.
Yeah,
he's the king of that.
Yeah, I know.
That well.
So I'm going to try to, from memory, to try to pull it out there. But I think that a lot of, you'd be surprised actually, a lot of our residents actually have long-term care insurance, which is or a policy that we are a private pay facility, but if they have a long-term care policy, then we can help them get reimbursed quickly through their insurance. So, mom or dad may have purchased a policy back in the day and have been paying on it forever. And the long-term care insurance providers will often, reimburse some or all of the expenses. Other than that, in regards to planning, some of our residents, usually a son or daughter, family member, becomes the power of attorney, right? And is managing their affairs. Yeah. And with that comes along, managing their money, their assets. And in essence, they are, spending down what's available to them. Yeah. Maybe they, when mom, it was no longer safe for her to be home alone, and they decided to make the move. They sold the house, and they're using money. Other times, there's I've seen lots of different scenarios. There's several siblings, and everyone's kind of pitching in a little bit for the care. So I know you had more questions rolled into that, dude.
You're moving through them. No, you're answering the questions, because at the end of the day, I want to be able to know that I can pay for something that is not just a hospital for my family member. I want something like you're talking about. This sounds awesome. So I want to, but I'm no dummy to think that this is equal expense to what that other facility costs. I understand that you pay for what you get, and so just having an idea. I mean, can I come into your office and sit down with you even now? My parents are probably, hopefully a good 20 years away from needing this, but can I come in now and sit down and go, what did today's cost look like, so that I can start planning for this? Yeah, no,
I think that's huge. And yes, to answer your question, come to my office anytime. We can sit down and talk. But yeah, it's having good dialogue, and it's talking about, what resources are available now, planning, things that you could be doing now to prepare for, when, your loved one needs care. Yeah. And that way, there are no surprises, or at least you're prepared for it when it does happen.
Yeah, and I would assume there are better policies out there than others. So, I mean, just like anything. So
Sure.
I'm not asking you to answer that question of where you get them, but I'm just telling people out there,
Do your research.
do your research.
Yeah. So in regards to our loved ones, I mean, are there things that we need to be paying attention to know when it's time to transition?
Yeah. So I think that, traditionally, well, I say traditionally, most of the population in senior living is female, by about, I think, 70% female.
Oh, wow.
Usually dad goes first, mom's at home. And, when it, usually what I've seen, and maybe some of your listeners can relate to this if they've experienced, is they end up hiring a caregiver first to come, or tapping into someone at church, or, can you come sit with mom? And it starts off with, maybe just a few hours a day, and then it turns into 6, 8. And then at some point, you've got a live-in caregiver. And of course, there's a lot of agencies out there now that's what they do, is they provide, home care.
Right.
And, but on an hourly rate. And so, a lot of people start there. But as far as when it's time, when they should really consider it, it's when, again, finances drive some of that, because if you're paying someone $20 an hour, for 24 hours to come to your house, that gets very expensive, and you don't always know who's coming.
Yeah.
And you don't always know, what they're doing. Right. And so, again, going back to accountability.
Right.
So, but as mom or, dad, if they're, if there's more falls, if they're more, falling in the home, if there's, medication is, not being managed properly, or they're, a lot of times they're over medicating or under medicating, or just not medicating at all. You know? And so ultimately, those are some signs to look out for. Yeah.
And so, but I imagine those are issues that you guys can solve with care.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of what we do. I mean, when a new resident is moving in with us, moving into our home, we do a full assessment, we build a care plan, we sync up with the physician, and, we do a med review, make sure everything's going good. And then we, try to get things back on track. Yeah. Ultimately. Yeah.
What is the typical transition time for someone like that? I mean, what I mean by that is, I would imagine it's kind of a big shock to be pulled out of your home, out of your apartment, out of your normal routine of life. And then, here I'm going to be over here at Seasons, and even if, it's a wonderful place, I imagine there's some transition time to when they're kind of back to some sense of normalcy, when their other loved ones can come in and visit them and say, okay, they're doing good.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think that it varies a little bit, from resident to resident. Sometimes I can get a sense for when a new resident might be struggling a little bit, because it's a new place, right? It's a new environment. Of course, again, we encourage the family to make the bedroom, to trick it out as much as they want to. We want pictures, and you want to hang photos on the wall of grandkids. Make it your own, right?
Awesome.
That's incredibly important. But there is a little bit of transition time, where the resident is potentially confused. And so sometimes it could take, 5, 7, 10 days for them to kind of settle in a little bit. Others, I've seen the complete opposite, where they're like, thank you so much, and it's like, whew, I don't have to deal with mowing my own lawn anymore, or, worrying about my home issues. And again, going back to to serving, if you approach it from that aspect, it's pretty awesome, because it's like, let us wait on you, right? Let us be, we try to be 5, 10, 12 steps away from the resident. And we're constantly, perusing the house, making sure that, everything's good, and that the residents are having a great time and being safe. But from that aspect, it's great to serve and help them settle in.
Yeah. Well, and we got we put the word out on Facebook that you were coming into the studio tonight.
Oh, boy.
And one of our listeners, Kristen, sent in some questions, and apparently this is something she's in the middle of right now. And so if you don't mind, she sent us like 3 questions. And I was like, man, these are great questions. I mean, I'd like to hear them answered. But so number 1, when is the best time to discuss with the parents? When is the best time to have that conversation about, hey, we need to start thinking about moving you to.
Yeah, I think that once you, I don't think start early.
Mm-hmm.
Start having some dialogue. A lot of times, and again, we get it. It can be a slippery slope, right? When you're dealing with the mom or dad, and you're realizing that doesn't make sense for them to be at home. It's not safe for them to be at home,
right?
But start early, and try to, it's delicate. Right. And so, but it's important. And so, start early enough to where, and sometimes you're planting seeds a little bit, and then you maybe come back around. And then another approach would be to, I have a lot of family that, they just bring mom or dad by seasons to have lunch with us, because again, it doesn't feel like a facility. So it's like we're going to a friend's house or we're stopping by. So, to kind of get their, reaction, their taste for it, to see if there might be a fit there.
But on some level, I can see the benefit of starting early and setting some expectation. I mean, I'm a big proponent of setting expectations, because I think that anybody that you set expectations for in a healthy way, they tend to rise to the expectation. If you have low expectations, people are going to, rise to your low expectation. And so on some level, I think that if you kind of say, listen, I understand that, you're maybe 20 years away from this even, but I don't want to get caught, and I want you to have some buy-in to what you do. And I just know that I may not be able to be the one that's your primary caregiver. So let's start talking about this.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I think that, start early and do it often, and get their feedback now, because you're going to have people, my dad's stubborn as can be. And of course, prior to his son getting involved in this and being a senior living operator, now he's like, hey, your mom's out of town this weekend. Can I come stay at Seasons, right? Because
you got an open room.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's like, all right, Dad, we'll leave the light on for you, because he sees what it's all about.
Sure.
But, you want to get their, you want to know what their preferences are, right? You want to know. Because some of them are like, there's no chance in whatever that, I'm moving anywhere other than my home.
Yeah.
And you may hear that now, but, start early and check in, and that could change.
Yeah.
That could change.
Well, and let's just assume some people, maybe they haven't started early. How do they have that conversation now that their parents have?
It's a tough one, but it's mom. It's not safe for you to be home, and it's not making sense financially for me to pay someone else to come to your home. And, so there are some other alternatives, and I just want to have some dialogue about it. Maybe, can we just go look at it?
Just being frank and honest.
Lay it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
it's really tough, because, I think of it this way a lot. Like, right now I've got 2 small kids, and they're basically helpless, right? They, without an adult around, right, they're helpless. And so I've got to do everything for them. But there's going to come a point where I'm going to need them to do everything for me.
Right.
And that man, whenever you've spent your entire life as the older adult that is wiser and knows what's going on, to have your child come to you and say, you can't do this anymore. Like, I'm getting choked up about it just a little bit right now, And so, I can imagine that's a really tough conversation to have. However, you can't just pass that buck. You can't let someone else have that conversation or let it not happen. You have to have it and risk whatever it is that you're risking,
right?
Or you feel whatever you feel like you're risking. It may be less than what you actually feel like it is. So
yeah.
Well, here's our next question: is can you arrange for assisted living well in advance?
Well, I think we talked a little bit about that. Yes, you can.
So insurance is an option there.
Yeah, insurance. Long-term care insurance is a good place to start. Saving money. Doing an analysis, if you will, of mom or dad's financial situation and what that could look like.
Mm-hmm.
It never hurts to start early and be prepared for an expense like this.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to get prepared for it is to look at what resources you have and what's available to you, and then compare that to what you want. What you can afford and the type of facility that you want to put mom or dad in, and just kind of work back your way into it a little bit.
I kind of feel like this is almost like preparing to send a child to college.
Yeah, a little bit.
But and so like I'm kind of wondering if in her mind, if she's going, well, can I come to Shawn's office and go like, look, I've got a prospect for you that's going to be ready in about 15 years. Can we start paying for this now?
There are, I'm sure, operators out there that will say, yes, start paying us a fee and we'll hold you a bet, kind of thing.
Yeah.
We'll leave a lot on for you. We'll guarantee a spot. We don't do that,
right?
But there are. In fact, I think we touched on it where they're managing all your money, and some of these these newer what they call continuous care retirement facility or communities where they've got independent. It's a campus, and it's it's $300,000-$400,000 to just to like get on the list to get in, and then it's a crazy amount per month. But you go through all of those silos of, again, independent living, assisted living, memory care, skilled, and on their campus. But essentially, you give them all your assets, and they spin that down for you. And it's just that's again to me that feels like big bucks. And that's not what we're about.
Absolutely.
But yes,
but kind of your advice is start planning for it financially. Find out where you want to go. Go talk to those people. Make some decisions. Start planning for it financially, and know that if you're financially set up, something's going to work out for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and her other question, kind of fed off the other one, which, so it doesn't really apply to you, but you may know. So like if you get into a situation where like, we'll take you and we'll be ready, we'll leave the light on for you. You'll be ready in 15 years. Is that something that is a permanent decision? Is it something you can change? I don't know how those guys operate.
I think
I would imagine not.
I'm sure that they've got contracts that you could, get out of, whatever commitment that you've made.
Right.
Usually, in a smaller environment like ours, if it's they see that within a coming couple of months, they need a place for mom or dad, and we're essentially, we work out an arrangement essentially to hold the spot for them, but doing it over a span of a decade might be a little harder.
Sure. And so how many residents you guys set up?
So we're going to be licensed for only 14 residents. Okay. Yeah. And it's funny, in the state, you can actually have up to 16 residents in a small facility, what they view as a small facility. We wanted to do even a little bit smaller than that, and just because we'll be licensed for 14 doesn't mean we'll have 14 people in there all the time, but that's what we have the square footage for. And again, going back to the premise of keeping it smaller, and and we can do more, and we're excited about that.
Yeah, and so like one of the things I see, like probably like larger facilities, advertising is like, hey, we've got a really big community for your loved one to get plugged into. How do you guys sort of foster that with a smaller number of people? Do you feel like that's more difficult, or but if I had to live with 14 people, that's more than enough people to live with.
Yeah, well, it's again, it goes back to preferences. I mean, sometimes walking 100 yards to the cafeteria isn't always the best fit for, or getting on an elevator and going down. And again, we've already talked about, the level of care that you often find in facilities like that. Now, granted, we're not going to have, although, One Briarwood here in Conroe, I mean, we've got an awesome we've got the outdoor space is awesome. We poured a very large walking path to the backyard and got a lot of green space back there. So, families and residents can go and enjoy that. But, we don't have, a crazy movie theater and we don't have a chapel in there. We have the churches come to us, which is pretty awesome. And, we have pastors that come in and
they're nearby.
They're nearby, and again, we talked about it. We love visitors, but we try to, again, going back, we want it to feel like home, but we want the food to be awesome, and we're doing activities, we're watching movies, and we want to find out what the residents want to do. Right. What they want. I mean, we're in memory care and we're required to have activities, whether the resident, wants to do them or not. Right. But we want to really kind of tease out what their preferences are. And the same with food. It's like, we don't want it to feel like cafeteria food. So, I mean, again, customizing it a little bit. I mean, hey, if your doctor says we can have salmon, let's have some salmon. Nice. Yes. I mean, like, you guys want steak, let's eat steak. Why don't you guys help us build a menu for the coming week? And so we're constantly baking and cooking things that are gourmet foods. And of course, we have dietitians that we work with to work around dietary needs and things like that.
Yeah. Well, because and I was kind of looking at some of the stuff you guys have up on social media and some of the other stuff you put out, and it seems like you guys are, with you trying to have a better ratio of staff, that those people kind of become the community with the residents, whereas it seems like the other places are really just trying to say like look, here's a big group of old people you can hang out with, and so you guys seem to be having the conversations. So like, look, we want the people that work here to be part of these people's lives and communities. And
yeah, no, it's look, and we can have the prettiest place in Conroe, right? We can have the best decor and the nicest furniture, but it all comes down to the staff. It really does. And so again, I'm very particular about who we hire. Yeah. And again, you don't, it's your mom or dad, right? It's a family member. You don't want just anyone, dressing them and helping them and working with them and, taking them on a walk. I mean, you want them to be qualified, but you want them to come from a good place too. Yeah. And, and I'm pretty good at kind of sniffing out those that are there for just a paycheck versus those that they really care. Yeah. And that there's a huge difference between the two.
And I'd imagine that's a unique individual.
It is, because not everyone's suited to be a caregiver. Right. I mean, it does take a certain type of personality and skill set and a huge heart. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah. You got anything else, Kev?
No, I mean, I think we've hit a lot of really good stuff here. I've been really informed. I mean, I kind of started off this podcast saying I don't know much about this stuff. In fact, I kind of do my best to steer clear of nursing homes.
You and I both.
Yeah. That's funny. And part of it is just because I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable going into those places. And a lot of the time it is because when I walk in the front door, there's like 16 people in wheelchairs just sitting there.
Just hanging out.
And they're doing nothing, and I feel uncomfortable for them.
Correct.
And so I think that I could get a little more on board with a place that they didn't feel like they're just sitting there. No one's paying attention to them, and
it's brutal.
It's brutal.
It's brutal. And think about it like this, and that brings up a good point. You don't, let's say you do have mom or dad or a loved one in there. You feel bad for. I mean, you almost don't want to go visit because you're again. We talked about smelling the neglect and just kind of seeing what's going on, and
smells
you see
like guilt.
It does. It does. And so, we didn't talk much about it, but guilt does play a big role in this, because it's like, oh man, I'm placing mom or dad in a facility, and so again, going back to a place that feels like home, it's a game changer.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate what you've already talked about. We do want to move on to another portion of our show where we ask everybody these same 4 questions, and we do have a title for it, Craig.
Yes.
The Final Four.
The Final Four.
Yeah, so just 4 questions that we ask all of our guests, and hopefully these are pretty simple. We'll start off easy and get hard. All right.
Oh boy.
All right. Number 1.
No one's failed it yet.
That's good.
And he and I even took it and we didn't fail it. So, So if you want to know what our answers are, go back to episode number 1. You can hear our answers.
All right.
Here we go. What's the must-have tool you won't leave your house without?
Cell phone. Cell phone.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Too many apps my head would roll off my shoulders. And I mean, it's 2019. I mean, I've got kids.
Just gonna own it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna literally own it. And I've got kids that have cell phones, and I'm like, dude, put down your phone, right?
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself to put it down sometimes. But my head would explode if I didn't have it. Frankly.
Yeah.
It's a connection to everything now.
It really is.
Yeah. It's amazing. All right. Second question. What's a job you've walked away from? So we've had people that answer this as a career, and that's fine if you want to go there. We did have in mind whenever we wrote this question, maybe a job around your home, something. I mean, you've been renovating this this home that you're turning into a assisted living. Was there anything in there that you thought, you know what, I'm going to get in here, I'm going to do this, and about halfway through, or maybe even sooner, you go, nope, got to call someone?
Yeah, so this is it's interesting though, because I've had to become very hands-on, and again, I am a little bit of a do-it-yourselfer, and so I've had to learn some things. I never had operated a chainsaw before until last year, and so I mean, lots of stories. I could keep you here all night. I think that
got your man card though,
dude. I've done. Yeah, I'm not afraid to get dirty. I'll put it to you that way. Right. So, but as far as walking away in regards to that, plumbing is not a big. I'm not a big fan, and and electricity. I mean, I can redo an outlet here or there, or a light switch, but I'm kind of a fan of all my limbs, and I don't want to. Yeah, so electricity scares.
Non-charred skin.
Exactly. Yeah. So electricity, it scares me a little bit.
We're anti-death here on the Homeowner Show.
Well, that's good to know. We're in good company.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, number 3. How do you wind down at the end of a long day?
Red wine.
There you go.
Yes, that's.
I've heard it. I've heard that in lyric form.
Does that? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's.
I can imagine Shawn sort of singing it to himself as.
Yeah. It's hard. Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's kind of hard not to without. Yeah, exactly.
Stay close to. Okay,
that's good, man. I like that.
All right, good. Last question. We're in the home stretch here. One of the best pieces of wisdom or advice you've ever received?
Oh, this is hard.
Yeah.
I've been blessed and fortunate enough to have gotten some really good advice over the years, not all of which I've followed, unfortunately. So this is, I think I got some advice recently that I'm really trying to use and utilize, and it's in regards to time management, because I've got little ones at home, and we've got a new business, and we're all over the place, and so things are a little nuts, and so in regards to time management, when something lands on my plate or something new, I'm trying to kind of put it in one of 3 silos or categories, which is, can I automate this, delegate it, or eliminate it?
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Automate, delegate, or eliminate.
Okay.
I'm trying to apply that. It's hard because I'm a do-it-yourselfer, and it's, I got this, right? But the list just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And, when you find yourself leveling up a little bit, but more things just keep getting piled on. So someone recently gave that to me, and I'm like, I've got to figure out how to start automating or delegating or just saying, you know what,
I think even people with high capacities have to recognize at some point they can't do everything.
And that's been hard for me.
Because I think most sort of entrepreneurial people want to do everything because it's control and quality.
It's mine.
It is, and it's hard. It is, but it's one of those things that you've got to kind of let go of the reins a little bit.
Sure.
So.
Okay, cool.
So the secret last question, I guess, would be if people
wait, there's a last one?
Yeah. So if people have questions or they want to get a hold of you, is there a way for people to find you?
Yeah. We're on social media, on Facebook, our website, meatseasons.com.
Okay.
Instagram, my email address, Shawn, SHAWN, at meatseasons.com. And feel free to shoot me an email if someone wants to come by for a tour. I think we start tours next week. And of course, we're joining the chamber soon. We're having a ribbon cutting and open house tour event on June 13th.
Awesome.
So
fantastic.
It's pretty exciting. Good times.
And we'll put all those links up in the show notes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we thoroughly enjoyed sitting down with you. Thanks for taking time out to do this. And, listeners out there, if you got any questions, you can get us at info@homeownershow.com as well. We can forward those or answer them ourselves, whatever works. But I think that'll do it for today. We're here every Tuesday, so thanks for downloading. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And we will see you next time.
See you.